Hey guys, so I'm back again with another Coral Painter video, following a very similar theme. I've just been doing like guys with foreshortened hands coming towards the screen. Anyway, this image here, I didn't get the start of it. I was literally like a minute in maybe. I just didn't manage to get the start. I apologize for that. The actual process took me an hour and 21 minutes. So probably it took me an hour and 22 minutes when it's all said and done. But this image was just fun to do, and I'm having more and more fun just using Coral Painter to create images, and I've missed it so much. But what I want to talk about here is like art, and how how you should approach art, as a young kind of artist, or as an artist, or any type of artist, how you should approach art. But mainly this is aimed at like younger people with a, who kind of have a fear factor, who probably are a little bit more fearful of taking on slightly more complicated images, or images like this. This isn't extremely complicated, but there's foreshortening, there's energy, there's anatomy, there's all these things. I'm not saying my anatomy is perfect. I'm really not. I'm just saying there's a lot of things going on that you might have to manage, that people might shy away from an image like this. And honestly, I find images like this a lot easier than doing a straightforward character design where the character is just stood in a normal pose, because that involves really defining all the elements of the character, or the image will just look bad. Whereas this character is extremely simple. He legitimately is just a guy who has a cape and a skin tight suit. He doesn't even have any gauntlets on his hands or anything. I was gonna add all that stuff, but then I thought, let me just do a simple version of the character. By the way, this is my original character. I'm not going to tell you his name, only because I want to keep it to myself until I release my webcomic. But this is one of my original characters, one of my favorite original characters. But when it comes down to it, with an image like this, you just really have to get into a flow. It's important. I always kind of try and streamline my process. As you see, I started out with kind of blocking out stuff, and then I kind of threw in my colors. And then from my colors, I started to lighten things up, and then I added my energy in the background. So I laid everything out. So essentially, everything I'm going to be doing for the next, this video is going to be 10 minutes. So everything I'm doing for the next 8 minutes in this video is just defining what I laid down at the start, which legitimately probably took me 5 whole minutes altogether of the entire an hour and 22 minutes process. So just keep that in mind. With this one, I kind of felt like I spent a little bit too much time on the face, but to be fair, that's usually the case when you're doing stuff like this. The face went through a lot of different changes. I started out, he didn't have a big beard, and I was like, I'm just gonna add a big beard, and then he didn't have, like, his eyes weren't gonna be open, and I was like, I'm just gonna open the eyes. So it was a process of like just really just messing with stuff, just keep messing with stuff, until something kind of worked out for me. And it was like just finding the right formula really, but it wasn't that hard. I had a character in mind. This is this isn't the regular version of the original character. My original version doesn't really have a big beard or anything. um you know he just looked a little bit different. He has a few different outfits I put him in. This is like the oldest version that I could think of. Very, very simple, very Superman, very basic, very golden age kind of Superman. Um, and it's just like when it comes down to it, you got to look at the different elements that go into a drawing or a painting, and what it is you're trying to do. I legitimately just wanted to have a character with some energy coming out his hand, and define that and make it look cool, and then add some white rim lighting on the back of the character. And that was all I really wanted to do. And that didn't come until I decided to put like my blockings in. I didn't have the rim lighting in mind before, but you just flow, you just let it flow. And once you start letting it flow, things can change. You can start adding and taking away, and just getting things to work for you, which is very important. At the same time, I think it's important to just keep in mind that this is fun as well. Don't take it too serious, because if you take it too serious, you can possibly put yourself in a downer. You don't want to be in a downer. You want to be up. You want to have faith in what it is you're doing. You want to feel like you could complete it. Because when I was doing this, I was looking at, I wasn't looking at the clock, because when I work in Painter, the clock disappears, which is quite weird, to be fair. But I work full screen on my Mac, and it kind of opens its own window, and then it's like full screen and the clock like disappears. But so I didn't know how long I was taking, but I felt like I was taking longer than my other speed paintings, which have took roughly 30 minutes. And that's probably because I spent a lot more time on the face on this one, and then I actually had to do kind of a background with adding the energy and stuff, which I didn't have to do in the other pieces. You know, so it was interesting, to be fair, when it came down to it. It's just again, I'll say this again. I'll keep saying this every video if I have to. Every video when I use Corel Painter is a marvel to use. If you do this type of work, if you do like these types of illustrations, it's really a pleasure to use this application if you can find the right brushes. The issue with Painter is it doesn't tell you anything. You don't learn. I literally copied these brushes from watching YouTube videos that didn't have any audio. You know, back in this is years ago. Just discovered these brushes from watching people like Benjamin Zangbin draw on YouTube. Benjamin Zangbin's this illustrator from Japan. I think he's Japanese or China. I think he's Chinese, or he might be Chinese actually. And he's Chinese. My bad. He does like Chinese comic books, and he paints these really beautiful, colorful images. And you know, there used to be videos where they'd have like these big art gatherings, and they'd invite some artists, and he was invited to two of those. And I was looking at the brushes that he was using in the corner of, you know, just in the corner of the video, and it was like, oh, cool, I can find that icon in Painter and click on it, and I clicked on it, and it's an oil pastel, and that was the brush I've been using a lot, because it's just really good for edges. It blends well. You know, it's just been a pleasure to use that brush. Usually, I make a custom brush. Like I use one of the chalk brushes in Photoshop as my brush shape, as my brush, and then I just mix that with an oil paint brush in Painter, and it makes this really nice oil paint kind of chalk brush, which I'm still gonna make, but I just haven't had to yet. So I'm gonna shy away from that as long as possible. But yeah, in the end, you know, this was probably the part of the process where, to me, everything came together when I started defining the energy. Now, I wasn't even going to do this at first. I actually was just going to leave it legit, just like flat colors. But then when I started doing it, I was like, this is why I love Corel Painter. And you can do this in Photoshop, but to me, it's always more of a labor. Because in Photoshop, you probably, to do something like this the same way, you probably would have to have stuff on layers, and you would have had to plan and think about stuff in a different way than in Painter. You can just implement these things. So I really enjoyed this process. Oh, there's that glow brush. Look at that. I really enjoyed this process. I really, really have enjoyed these past 2 days. This is, by the way, I've made this painting the same day as I made a different painting. So the other one probably would just be the video I posted before this, but they both was done in the same day. This one took an hour and a half. The other one took about 30 minutes. But you'll probably see the difference, because I'd say this one's probably a bit more quality. I'm not trying to say any of them are great quality. They're still, as far as I'm concerned, they're still speed paintings. Completely and utterly just speed paintings. They're not final pieces. But I would get them printed out, and I would have them on the wall, because I love speed paintings. I think speed paintings are when an artist is at their best. I think doing a big piece is beautiful and everything, but I think you lose a lot of that energy you have in a speed painting when you do a big piece. And it's just important to keep, if you're going to do speed paints and stuff, it really helps your skills. It's a great form of practice, because you can practice all the realistic, practical things like lighting and stuff that you can't practice in a big piece. You can implement those things in a big piece, but you can't practice them. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. And remember, keep drawing, keep grafting, keep going. Never stop. It's the only way to get better. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!